Hello and welcome to Unnecessary Roughness, Barstool's college football show, presented by High Noon Hard Seltzer. We have the they got right to it. They got right to the playoff rankings. I guess they know that nothing matters between like 25 and 21, but they're doing it right now. And Kayce's going to tell you about High Noon Hard Seltzer.
Yes, it's also a 30-minute unveiling show. Last week was an hour, so they're trying to get to it quick and also in our Barstool world, we've got Surviving Barstool coming up right after this. If you're live on YouTube right now, it'll kick you straight to it. If you want the unedited version, watch it on Rumble, and make sure you grab a High Noon. Have a High Noon in your hand when you're doing it. We love them. The winter pack is coming, the tequila, the vodka, the iced teas. We absolutely love it. We're not going to mess around for a long time tonight. HighNoonSunsips.com. Let's get to the playoff rankings. Get to Surviving Barstool. Have a High Noon.
No, okay, yeah, you weren't messing around.
Missouri listen, we love High Noon. Everyone knows that.
Missouri up to 19 could be
to prop the
helping out some SEC teams. Now, the big concerns here are, really how they rank the SEC teams, right? And Miami. Those are the four teams that are like at discussion here because SMU is going to be safely in as long as they win. That's the discussion points here, where they rank South Carolina, Alabama, Ole Miss, and Miami. You guys agree?
Clemson even down to 17. I mean, obviously they lost, but down to 17. So, very clearly, if they lose the ACC championship, they're out, which we knew already.
Yeah.
We already knew that.
I thought Syracuse getting the nod all the way up to 22 and jumping Colorado's might be significant for ACC standards. That was interesting.
So we're all the way up to 16. Iowa State is 16. I assume that Arizona State will be not far from them.
There's
15.
15. Arizona State 15.
Yeah, 15. So we're at 15 for Arizona State. Now we'll get into your SEC schools, I would assume. Maybe
I bet this is when they start to slow it down a little bit, Brandon. This seems like maybe this is when they're going to start to be a little dramatic.
Or they might flip and go to do number 1 through 4 now.
Which would be, at this point, I will say that all the lobbying so South Carolina's 14.
Yeah, there you go. And South Carolina fans are going to get mad, but in no world should they be ahead of Ole Miss or Alabama. That's just the fact. It's going to be Ole Miss and then Alabama. And, Miami and Alabama are the key here.
The lobbying for all the teams involved here has been, and we knew that would happen. You see it with the 4th, 5th, and 6th spot in the 4-team playoff. We knew it would happen with 12, 13, and 14. I think it is way more egregious now because there's so many more teams. Okay, so Ole Miss is 13.
Yeah, so it's Alabama's spot, guys. It's going to be Alabama's spot if that spot opens up, and that spot might open up because Clemson might snipe it from everybody.
If Clemson wins the ACC championship, SMU will go there.
No, I will not say that. I will not say that. But if Clemson wins the ACC championship, it will be just hardcore between SMU and Alabama for that spot, I think. I would put SMU in. But
so you're saying that if Clemson loses, that it opens up multiple spots?
If Clemson, there's one spot available.
Wow.
Right?
Miami 12.
Bama ahead of Miami?
Yeah.
I guess it makes sense. I wanted to run this by you guys. So I saw, I'll get you a Pick 6 preview tweeted this, and I thought it was a good take on it. That it just seemed pretty unanimous that Alabama's is ahead of Ole Miss. Ole Miss's resume is just kind of better.
I don't think it is better. And I like this discussion, though. I think they're both better in South Carolina. Ole Miss beat them 27-3. Alabama beat them, too.
They both beat them outright. That's why South Carolina, they lost to the wrong teams.
Throw them away.
They lost to if they lost to different teams, they'd probably be ahead. But
let's do it. Ole Miss versus Alabama. They both beat Georgia, right?
And Ole Miss beat Georgia by more.
They both beat South Carolina, correct? So we're even.
And Ole Miss Ole Miss blew both of them out, blew them out.
Right. Fair. Let's see. Next win would be probably Missouri for Alabama, and then maybe LSU for Alabama. And who's Ole Miss's third best win?
Probably
Missouri's number 19. I know it doesn't look great, but Missouri's number 19.
I guess that's.
But you also look at the losses, and I understand.
Now we're talking.
Kentucky's the worst loss for sure.
4-8 Kentucky at home.
Well,
that is the
5-7.
4-8.
Are they 4-8?
They only won one SEC game, which happened to be Ole Miss.
And they lost to Louisville. They're 4-8.
If you look at the like the back and forth of like how like beating Oklahoma and like that's the thing is like Kentucky's the worst loss, but losing to Oklahoma and Vanderbilt is worse than losing to Florida and Kentucky.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Is losing to Kentucky by 3 worse than losing to Oklahoma by 30?
No,
or whatever it was, 20.
I think.
Ole Miss was a 20-point favorite at home and got embarrassed. They got out physicalized. They had that was a pathetic performance. I think it was by far.
Oklahoma. I mean, they got you want to talk about out physicalized. They got
scored 3 points. Alabama scored 3 points against.
You want to talk embarrassing? Acting like Oklahoma's on the same level of Kentucky for being bad. Oklahoma
they blew them out, but they put their margin of victory is so much bigger.
Fair.
I don't even care about the margin of victory when we're comparing those two teams and what happened here. Yeah, both are terrible losses. You guys are just acting like because Ole Miss only lost to Kentucky.
Hold on, no. Margin of victory is and again, like I see the argument. Margin of victory is absolutely something they take into consideration.
I gotta talk. Guys, what he is saying. It's 4-8 Kentucky. Kentucky was fucking pathetic and terrible. Oklahoma, it was 6-6. They're not good. But losing at Oklahoma is not as bad as losing to Kentucky at home by any margin whatsoever. Any margin.
I just think there's an argument when you lose by 4 touchdowns. I think there's
and how what was
points. I think there's an argument.
You bring up the spread from Ole Miss, Ole Miss, Kentucky. Horrible. What was the spread for Alabama, Oklahoma? And then they lose by 4 fucking touchdowns.
10 or 11. It wasn't crazy.
But then they lost by 4
around 2 touchdowns, something like that. I think.
I don't think that's that. I don't think the committee is going to. If they look at Kentucky and Oklahoma, I don't think margin of victory is discussed there. I think they lost to Kentucky. I think that is a huge.
It is a huge. I see both sides of it, but the fact that we were like throwing out Ole Miss just because of that, like when you look at the way Alabama lost later in the season, there's absolute. First of all, margin of victory does come into play, whether you want to
lose later in the season than Ole Miss.
Do what?
They didn't lose later in the season than Ole Miss.
Lost the same week.
No, I'm talking about you're talking about the Kentucky loss versus the Oklahoma loss.
Yeah, but I mean
Alabama getting embarrassed by Oklahoma is an incredibly bad loss. Like, why are we acting like it's not? I don't care.
It is a bad loss, but it's not even on the same pedestal as Ole Miss Kentucky.
It's not.
I disagree. I think losing. I think the margin of victory makes it like close.
Y'all being for real right now?
I mean, but you're saying brutalized. Like I'm just saying. Blutman was using the word brutalized and all this. Like brutalized is when you get was it 34
I didn't even say brutalized. I said out physicalized, which yes, Alabama was out physicalized by Oklahoma. I had not used the word brutalized.
Out physicalized is just not a word. So
I corrected it into an actual word.
Whoa! Ohio State only fell to 6.
I was going to say that was basically saying Ohio State's going to get a home play.
Ohio State's going to get, if it comes down to Ohio State and Tennessee, Ohio State's getting a home game over Tennessee.
Ohio State. Also, that's another one. Ohio State just should be ahead of Tennessee.
Let me just go ahead and say, if it's 8 Ohio State, 9 Tennessee, then they will play each other, and that will be in Columbus. We just found that out. Which found that
awesome.
out.
Breaking news, B-Walk.
Which is awesome.
So Ohio State has 2 top
10 wins.
Yeah, and Tennessee has 1. No, they have like their best wins. What, number 11? Whatever.
It's Alabama. Their best wins.
Alabama.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with Ohio State.
I think Ohio State should be ahead of Tennessee.
Although if you want
I mean, they lost to Arkansas. That was a bad loss too.
Yeah, that's
a bad loss.
Sam Pittman returning, by the way. Where are we at? So Notre Dame 4, Penn State 3, Texas 2,
Oregon.
And then Oregon 1. So nothing. What the things that we found out tonight that will be on the bullet points: Ohio State only falling to 6, and Alabama getting the absolute nod over everybody else. So there we are. And I don't think right now I'm looking at Miami first team out, Ole Miss second team out. Nothing gets Miami in, right? Nothing gets Ole Miss in. Ole Miss is done. South Carolina's done.
I think you pretty much just saw what's going to happen. Obviously, the only thing is if SMU loses. That's the only real, I think, discussion we're going to have like going forward into the final playoff rankings.
Can I?
the ACC championship's the most important thing for this weekend.
Well, in a sense that, yeah, for the whole 12-team playoff, but like the Big 12 championship game is I mean, that's a playoff game in itself.
Right. But I'm saying, like, as far as like if Clemson wins, then I think they slide SMU in. That it wouldn't matter. I mean, obviously they're not going to have Miami jump SMU, right?
I don't think so.
Right, because the only question, and I've seen this thrown around, I do not think this is going to happen, but the only question is, do you then Georgia will have 3 losses, and this goes back to the argument that we had on Saturday night. Georgia will have 3 losses if they lose to Texas in the SEC championship. Would they leave them out? I do not think so.
I think Georgia is completely safe where they are, even with a loss. I think everybody is pretty much safe. The only thing that can happen, as far as I'm concerned, is SMU losing, and then it becomes because Clemson's taking a spot. Clemson jams their way in there, and now the choice committee, they discuss one thing on Saturday or Sunday, and that is Alabama or SMU. And I'm not 100% certain that SMU would maintain that spot. Do I think they should? Yeah, probably. But I'm not 100% sure they would.
As far as I'm concerned,
they have the opportunity to go in and make it move. Go.
Yeah, yes, I agree that SMU should get the nod, but as far as I'm concerned, that discussion's already over. That's Alabama's spot. Just is.
You think?
If
I
Clemson
say it with
SMU?
99.9% certainty, yeah. There's no chance that they leave the brand of Alabama, the 3 letters of the SEC, Greg Sankey's pocket money, all the TV money, all of that stuff, and little old SMU first-year ACC. This is so simply going to be Alabama. It is what it is.
I also think with the Big Ten solidly getting 4, like no doubt getting 4, that the committee will have cover to sneak in a 4th SEC team.
I agree.
And I know the committee would prefer to have a 4th SEC team over SMU. Again, if Brandon Walker were voting, SMU would be fine with a loss this weekend. It's all going to be moot, I believe, because I think SMU is going to beat Clemson. So that's my personal thought process going into this weekend. And if that happens, Big Ab, Titus said this on our show today, but I wonder what y'all think about this. Should the committee just have not released this tonight and kept this suspense going for Sunday?
That's a really good point.
Yeah, it's honestly good. Yeah, I kind of agree. That actually, I didn't really that thought hadn't occurred.
Right, until you just said it.
I agree for sure because, yeah, like you said, now we just kind of know what it is. Like, if SMU loses, they're definitely propping Miami or propping Alabama up to be in that spot. And then everything else, and like you kind of now, like Ohio State, like someone like me, like now there's not much I'm not like sweating out a home playoff game. Like it looks pretty solid right now. Like we're probably going to get a home playoff game. There's nothing that the people behind us could really do to jump ahead of us. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, things like that are pretty set. And then the only things you're really worried about are just like if Oregon, Penn State, kind of the winners, either like if Penn State wins, they'll probably just kind of flip-flop where like they'd probably be 1, or if Texas wins, like I guess they could be 1 instead of Penn State. But like them in the Big Ten championship game, SEC championship game, you're pretty much just going to be like 1 and 5 or like whatever, like 2 and 6, whatever combo of like those spots.
The drama would be much, much better because obviously a lot of these teams are sitting idle this weekend. So like that goes back to, not to reignite the argument, like that goes back to why I don't think SMU should be left out for a team that's sitting idle on championship weekend because SMU made it to the championship. But like I didn't even think about that till you just said that, Brandon, that Titus, like that's so true because now we are watching obviously to see the seeding and the ACC game is, the really big one on who slides in. With the drama between Ole Miss, Alabama, and South Carolina is not there. And like I said before we started, getting into the rankings, like the lobbying you didn't see it as much from Alabama, or maybe I just didn't. Maybe it's not on my algorithm. The lobbying from South Carolina, from not just South Carolina fans, but the media, and then the lobbying that Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss has been doing for them, like it's been fucking crazy. Yeah. Like
Lane,
more than I've ever
seen. Has been looking for any ass to kiss that he can find. And
but even like South Carolina, like the media, like that's been going. I mean, it feels like there's people that have never been talking about football in their lives. Which again, I think you could have made an argument for South Carolina. I was shocked at some of the people that were arguing for South Carolina. I was like, who? Why does this person care about this?
I've seen people saying South Carolina should be top 5. I've seen
that's insane.
Top 5 what?
I don't know when the edict went out. I don't know when people decided we got to get South Carolina in here. They are a good team who's had a good season. They are not a top 5 team. They are not a top 10 team. They are a good, solid team who, once their schedule eased up, was able to win some games, finish very strong, and will be a force to be dealt with in the SEC over the coming years with this quarterback and this defense. They will be very good. They are not one of the top teams in the country this year, and I don't care what the back half of their schedule says. Sorry.
Before we keep going, I know we have a bunch of ads before we get out of here right at 8 for Surviving Barstool. Rocket Money. So, Brandon, it is December, 3rd, 2nd, 3rd, whatever. So I know you like to look at your Rocket Money at the beginning of the year or beginning of the month, and you like to look at it maybe not as much as the end of the month. This is the month. And now that I have a child, you have 4 children, I can imagine Rocket Money is really kicking your ass this month, but in a good way, because it reminds you exactly how much you have to spend, and most importantly, your unwanted subscriptions. And Ev, we've talked about this a bunch because we both are big quad box people. We've got the YouTube TV, we've got all the different things we subscribe to that we might not use in the summer, we might not use in the spring. Rocket Money reminds us to cancel those unwanted subscriptions and does it for you. You don't have to do anything. You just say you want to cancel it. They go do it. Go to rocketmoney.com/rough. Again, unwanted subscriptions pile up really quickly, but also helping you budget, helping you save money. It's a free app. We love it. The holidays are here. You're probably spending a lot more money than you normally do the rest of the year. Let Rocket Money keep it all in check for you. rocketmoney.com/rough.
Where's Mississippi State? Oh, I'm working on it, buddy. I'm working on it. 2-10 this year, but the arrow's pointed straight up. Everybody's
you made your announcement.
Get them out, huh?
You made your announcement.
Yeah. More cowbell with Brandon Walker and Jake Mangum coming very soon.
Yeah,
Jake
you made your announcement and lost 2 guys to the portal right away. Oof.
Yikes.
Directly.
Here's the thing, Blevin.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm rooting for a 2-10 team, which I am,
mm-hmm.
if I just watch my team give me the worst season in my life, and then the players from that team immediately enter the portal, fucking buy. Buy. And better out than in is what I always say. Like,
tell them.
Why on earth am I going to be fighting? Now, we got some players that are very good that will be part of our building process in the future, but whatever. Anyway.
Brandon, tell me you're bringing your luggage with you and it's Louis.
Yes, correct.
Well, we got to get rid of this Kmart luggage.
Now,
did y'all see Deion run from his ex-wife?
Yeah.
Yes. But and honestly, like just even like the general public that knows the story, like that was like a crazy story when that all happened. But like the people that weren't realizing how crazy of a story it was and like how bad that divorce was, like they were just like, what the hell just happened?
When I saw it, and I don't know the backstory at all. All I could think of in my mind was how much of Deion's money does that woman have? Because he ran out of there.
All I can I feel like if you were paying, like, again, not you guys, like general public knows how bad it was, like maybe back then. But like I know that when he was on the Pro Football show with us and Tom Brady was getting a divorce and they were talking about Tom and Giselle's lawyer, like he even like this many years later was like, I wish I had that lawyer because I got taken to the clinic in my divorce. Like it's very like, but the way he like turned and the amount of people that were like, that man turned to run a 4.2 40 on 8 toes. Like I was dying. I was dying laughing. Did you also see, and I don't think we talked about this, which I know that like everybody has their opinions on people sitting out of bowl games, but after Colorado didn't get in because BYU won that game on Saturday night, that Deion was like, we're not sitting out of this game. Like Shador's not sitting out, Shiloh's not sitting out. Like we're finishing what we started. Like it's very, and again, I know he's a very polarizing person and people like love to hate on him. He's saying what so many of these fans want coaches and players to say, you know, maybe 90% of the time, 85% of the time, like more coaches saying that, like that's what these fans want. He's like, we're not sitting out. We don't give a shit. We're not in the playoff. I loved that. I thought that was great.
No, good for him. I think there is so much likable about Deion Sanders, and there's so much great things, and he's done a great job at South Carolina. But I mean, the people that hate on him, I mean, they've thrown out some hateable things too. So I'm not going to sit there and judge anybody. Yeah,
no, definitely. I'm just saying that like that statement itself, whether it's coming from Deion or it was coming from Dan Lanning or it's coming from anybody, like you don't really see coaches say that anymore because they want to, their players have the right to sit out. Which again, whatever your opinion is, he's just like straight up like, no, that's not happening. Like we're not letting them sit out.
Big F, how you holding up?
We're hanging on by a thread.
Yeah.
I want to stand very clear on my stance that the only way out for Ryan Day is a national title, not a national title game appearance, not a Final Four appearance. It's natty or like I want his head on a stick.
Big F, Saturday night after the show, actually I did it on the show, didn't I? I think Ohio State 5-1 to win the national title was a bargain, and it was a gift from the gods. I still think there are 4 teams in this country who can win the national title, and there's only 4. And Ohio State is one of those 4. I got Oregon, I got Ohio State, I got Texas, I got Georgia. Now, Texas has proved the least out of all these teams, but they were impressive as hell against A&M. Georgia, we know, is in there, but they've spent a lot of time showing it's not in there, too. Oregon, I don't have to say anything. And Ohio State has 2 wins over top 10 teams right now. So I know I know how embarrassed they are. I know it's one of the worst losses, but it reminds me of 2021. You remember when Kirby Smart had the best team in the country and they were 12-0 and they went to the SEC championship game and they were finally going to exercise some demons and get to beat Alabama and Nick Saban for the first time, and Alabama tapped them titties in the SEC championship game. And it was embarrassing and it was terrible. And it was, oh my God, he'll never beat them. And then what happened? A month later, all the demons came out and Georgia won the national title. This loss is worse than that loss was, but it's still it reminds me of that. For the next 3 weeks, Ohio State and Ryan Day are just going to be told how shitty they are, how terrible they are, how embarrassed they should be. And they're going to have 3 weeks to work on whatever is ailing them. Then they're going to get a home playoff game most likely, and all of a sudden you're in the mix.
Brandon, what I want to say 2 things. Your lips to God's ears, but I want to remind you that's the same thing they've been told for 3 fucking years, and they still laid that egg. Like, this is the thing now. I've been hypnotized where I'm obviously a fan. I'm a fan. I'm gonna ride till the wheels fall off. Even as I'm sitting here right now talking to all of you and saying
the wheels are off.
I don't believe that's what I'm saying. Like I don't believe in Ryan Day. Like I have no genuine faith in him, but I will blindly just root for Ohio State because I'll root for them no matter what. Like I want to win a national title. I'm not one of these that's gonna say like if we win the national title, like won't matter because we beat Michigan. If we're the champs, we're the fucking champs. Now if we do that, and it will be annoying if we win it all, and then Michigan can still kind of parade around like back to whatever, like they beat us. But trust me, I want to win this natty. I just have such a hard time believing in Ryan Day and like this team to kind of like put together 4 clean games in a row. And now we're at a point where we're playing such elite level teams. You like even the shit we did against Penn State. Like I don't think you're gonna be able to get away with that against like Georgia or Texas or whoever. Like you got to play A football the rest of the way. And he just showed me nothing to believe that he can out game plan these top level coaches. That he can like just outmaneuver them out. Just like I mean. I don't believe in him. I just don't like my genuine in my heart of hearts. I just don't believe in him, but I'm going to fight like hell for him. Just the Ohio State Buckeyes, not him individually.
All right, let's play around with this list because I just gave you 4, and we have an entire list of 12 teams currently in the playoff. I said Oregon, I said Ohio State, I said Georgia, I said Texas. Before I go any further with any other teams, is there anybody out of that group of 4 that you guys would eliminate?
No. And honestly, like I'm not saying that A&M is some like juggernaut. We're an 8-4 team, but the way that Texas defense played on Saturday night, like had you asked me this before, I still would have said Texas. But we need to see. We saw Texas. Like now, Quinn Ewers makes mistakes, but Carson Beck also does that. So I'm going to say those 4. I think Texas really proved a lot defensively on Saturday.
All right. We currently have 4. I move on. Can Notre Dame win the national championship?
I think they can.
Said yes. What'd you say, Kayce?
I think they can.
I say no, but they can beat other teams who can win the national title. I think they can screw somebody up. They could beat a Texas. They could beat an Ohio State. They could beat an Oregon. I think in a one-game situation with that run game and that defense, they can beat anybody and screw their season up. I do not think they can win 3 straight games with that quarterback, that offense, and that coach. In a situation like I don't think they're going to win 3 games in a row to win the national title or 4, whatever it is. I don't know where they are. I don't think they can do that, but I think they can be a spoiler and beat somebody else. Am I alone here? Big F says they can't win it either.
No, Brent, I very much agree with your sentiment that I think they're dangerous. Like they can beat a lot of these teams like in that one game. I agree with you. And I also think we're kind of falling into this Notre Dame trap that we tend to fall into from time to time when they have a team like this where we forget, like, they've been just steamrolling, like, really bad teams.
Yeah.
And, like, USC, they were fortunate to get out of there with a win. Like, that's not a good team. I just think we're, like, falling for this Notre Dame trance we fall into sometimes when they go on these little runs. Like, I just don't believe in them to, like you said, to string together, like, a few good games like that. I think once they play some of these, like, better teams, they played such bad quarterback play. They played 2 service academy teams. Like, they beat no one. Yeah. They beat no one good on this run post Northern Illinois.
I personally think it depends on how it all falls, because if you get Notre Dame in that 5 spot, which I know right now is Penn State, but if Oregon beats Penn State will probably drop, right? Like, I do think now it depends on what they do with Texas, Georgia. I get that. But if you get Notre Dame, and I think Arizona State's going to win the Big 12, I think Arizona State is great. But if they get into that spot and then they go Arizona State, Boise State, and then you talk about they could mess it up for some people, if they get into that spot, yes, I do think they could win the national title. Now, if they've got to go play Tennessee and then Georgia and then Ohio State, maybe not. That spot, that little Notre Dame spot right there, that's where I say yes. They could really get lucky and play 2 games, and then there's that game in the semifinals that you're talking about. Like, could they mess it up for Georgia?
Bigger problem with them would be Oregon losing and they take the 5. Go ahead, Blutman.
Yeah, I understand the Notre Dame sentiment and the trance that we've fallen from years past. That's the thing. That's years past. There ain't no elite team to be scared of this year, and that's just the fact. Notre Dame can compete with anyone in the country. Most teams that are going to make the playoff can compete with anyone in the country. That's just my true belief. There is no elite team. Oregon's a good team. They're not great. They're not this. It's wide open.
Agreed. All right, so that's 5. I've got 4 winning it. You two both have 5. Big F has 4. Penn State, can they win the national title? Because I think maybe they can. They got the quarterback. I think they got a quarterback who can do it. They got a defense who can do it. I don't know if they have a coach who can do it.
That's the problem right there, which is, like, I know that we're giving Ryan Day a lot of
Marcus Freeman could do it.
I know, but we're giving Ryan Day a lot of shit right now, but James Franklin can't beat Ryan Day either. Like, I don't know. Like, Penn State really is in a great, we've said this before, the 12-team playoff was meant for teams like Notre Dame and Penn State, because Penn State doesn't have to beat Ohio State. They don't have to beat Michigan in the past, and they're going to sneak in. Here they are. They don't have to get over that hump, but to win a national title, he has to get over that hump, and he can't do it.
James Franklin doesn't have to beat Ryan Day to win a national championship.
He can't beat it. Anytime it's a top 5 matchup, he can't do it.
I just think it's so wide open. I don't know if I could go in year of change. I don't know if I could go and pinpoint coaches and everything right now and say they can't win. I think every single team has countless flaws.
I'd like to point out, again, I'd like to use that 2021 Georgia example, because Kirby Smart couldn't do it until he did it. And he was the same way. He could never win that big one. He could never beat Alabama. He could never win that big. And finally he did. He won it twice in a row. So Franklin is a good enough coach. I think if he's getting on the green constantly, the putt's going to fall eventually. And like Blutman said, I don't think this is a particularly strong year at the top of the sport. I think if you get in this mix, Oregon is very beatable. And Ohio State is very beatable, which we've seen. And Texas is very beatable, which we've seen. Georgia's very beatable. So I'm not going to rule out Penn State. Now, my next one, and this might be the last one I even ask about. This is a team I'm starting to get a little feeling about. Can the Tennessee Volunteers win the national title? Blutman with another thumbs up.
Yeah.
You know what? Let me stop there, Blutman. Are all 12 of these teams, do you think there's 12 teams who win the national title?
11.
Okay.
The group of 5. The Mountain West team can't do it.
Okay, very good.
11 Power 4 teams could do it.
You think
I don't think Iowa State or Arizona State can win it.
Yeah, if Jordan Tyson's healthy, Arizona State could be that. I think you guys are greatly overestimating the top of the table right now. That's just my personal belief. I don't think that there's this world beater team. I think the best team and my favorite to win right now, as it would have been like 2-3 weeks ago, it's always Texas or Alabama. I think it's Texas right now. That's my number 1 team, in my opinion. Yeah. I think that they've got tons of flaws too. I don't think their quarterback, I don't think Quinn Ewers I don't think he's elite. He makes a lot of mistakes. If you look around the country, every single team has a lot of flaws that we could go in and dissect. Anyone could beat anyone. I truly believe that.
I will say that I don't think it's necessarily like one team versus the other. And like maybe this makes me a Big Ten SEC elitist. I don't think the ACC and the Big 12 can win a national title over what we're going to see from the SEC and the Big Ten.
Actually, yeah, that's valid. I'm sorry. Kayce, you're correct. It's no Mountain West and it's no ACC. I'm sorry. I messed that up. Correct, Kayce.
So that's where I'm saying it. Like I just don't see a world where I could say I think SMU could win a national title when you have those teams. Now, Notre Dame, I think you could with a certain path.
But if you're going to lump ACC in with Mountain West, you've got to lump Big 12 in too, man.
I disagree. If it's Iowa State, it's no.
Arizona State can't run through Oregon, Ohio State, and Texas. They just can't.
Not a chance. Not a chance. Listen, let's go. Arizona State and Indiana also has 0.0%.
Correct. Yes.
Let's not do this, Indiana thing. We did this already once.
We did this already once, and then the team that they lost to got beat up by Michigan. A team that we beat. If we want to do a little college football math, want to do more. Like Indiana's fine. Schematically, if they don't match up against Ohio State and they don't match up against Tennessee, they're fine.
If they don't play any other good teams, they match up fine. Yeah.
Like if they just
play Arizona,
keep acting like Georgia's this great team. Georgia hasn't played good football 90% of the year.
Indiana, I can't do this. Indiana
Georgia's so good. Look at the G. Look at the cute little G. Georgia's so good.
No,
Indiana did not belong on the field with Ohio State.
Yeah, and guess what, man? That was one game. That was one game. And look at this, Brandon. Look at this. Ohio State didn't belong on the same field as Indiana that week, right? Because Ohio State was so good. Well, then they go and they lose to Michigan. It's almost like anyone could beat anyone.
That's different.
Profile and Michigan's talent profile and Ohio State's talent profile are not that different. Indiana doesn't have anywhere near the talent of any of these teams. Indiana has gotten here because of their schedule. It's 11-1. They're a great story. They're one and done in this playoff, man.
Also, when Ohio State, Michigan, that was
that they match up fine against anyone except Tennessee and Ohio State.
The Ohio State-Michigan game, yes, was really embarrassing for Ohio State. But what Brandon just said about the talent of the roster, and it's also a rivalry game where there's like Indiana had no business against Ohio State. And like, who did Indiana? You want to talk about good wins? Who's Indiana's best win? Who's Indiana's best win?
The best wins against Michigan. Yeah, okay. Not great.
So, and then we beat the shit out of Nebraska. Nebraska just lost to Iowa, and Iowa had 5 first downs the entire game.
I think that we are overreacting. Of looking back on it, Evo and I talked this through. I think Indiana was able to really compete with Ohio State physically, run through the tackles. They ran the ball completely fine. Their defense was completely fine. Their defense kept up.
Stop.
The gap isn't as Indiana as you guys got led to believe.
Indiana's running game was fraudulent, and you fucking know it. In the first and second
quarters, fraudulent, Brandon.
Well, if you'll let me talk, I'll tell you. In the first quarter, they ran it fine. They had one good drive. In the second half, when they were down by 1 million, they had a 7.5-minute drive where they just ran. They ran. Of course, Ohio State was content to let them run. They're down 30 points, and they're just trying to run inch at a time. They could not run the football. When that game was in doubt, they averaged like 2.5 yards a carry.
No, I mean, yeah, sure. Like the second half of that game didn't matter. I still think Indiana ran the ball fine in the first half. They were able to compete. Yes, they did. They were able to compete physically with the I think that game got blown out of proportion because of the final score, and Signe waved the white flag. He was a coward.
All right, I got to get him away from Indiana because
we left so many points on the board. Like that was a 23-point game.
It goes both ways. Sick.
We're talking about a game that happened 3 weeks ago. Indiana's going to be in the playoff. They're going to play a game that's going to be great. Then they're going to be out. So Arizona State against Penn State. These are the matchups currently as they sit right now. Now, will this happen? Who knows? Number 5 seed is currently Penn State. They could go up to as far as 1 or 2 if they beat Oregon. But right now, 5 seed Penn State against 12 seed Arizona State. Thoughts? Okay, good stuff.
I mean, a home game for Penn State. I'm assuming Penn State's probably close to a touchdown, maybe favorite.
I think it might even be like 12.
It could be more. I mean, if it was 10, it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, 10. It was 10-12. I mean,
there are some fascinating matchups here if these were to hold. Number 9 Tennessee at number 8 Ohio State, which is again fascinating. Number 11 Alabama at Notre Dame, which if I'm Notre Dame and I get the 6th seed and I host Alabama, that'd be a huge game with gigantic teams. But if I'm the 6, I'm hoping to see like Boise at 11 or something. Just something that's not Alabama, who's been here so many times.
That's what I was saying about Notre Dame. Like they're praying for that easier path.
I also I think there's a very decent chance that Boise loses that title game.
I don't disagree with that either.
Like I think UNLV is very live in that game. Very live. The first game was super competitive.
If UNLV were to win, what that does is that slots them in as the G5 and probably slots the Big 12 back into the bye situation. Correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
So that would change Penn State from being, if they're the 5 seed, from playing Arizona State to playing UNLV.
Which, again, that 5 spot is the just chef's kiss spot to be.
Yeah, UNLV can't do it against one of the best teams in the country. Their quarterback cannot throw the ball consistently enough, and he's still miles better than Sluka for the offense. It's just.
I forgot that Sluka existed.
Yeah,
just a reminder that with Sluka they lost 0 games. Without Sluka they lost 2. I'm just for reference.
All right, that's a meaningless thing. Prague on the field says a lot of different things.
Kayce, we got some business?
Have some business, Brandon, and we have great business with our friends at Pork Rinds. Love me some pork rinds. Listen, like I mentioned, if you're watching this live right now, we're going to kick it right to Surviving Barstool. If you're listening tomorrow, you're watching tomorrow, whatever, all I know is grab some pork rinds because I'm going to be sitting there eating it, not like popcorn because pork rinds are better, not like pretzels, not like chips, pork rinds. Less than 1 gram of carbs for every serving, tons of protein. They've got the spicy dill, the sweet barbecue, the hot honey, the salt and pepper. They've got the original. They've got it all. We love pork rinds. Crunch on your Southern recipe pork rinds. And also you can go find your Crunch Time Hero, porkrinds.com. They're our favorite snack. It's a perfect game day snack, road trip snack for your kids. Sit on your couch, watch a movie snack, porkrinds.com.
Well, Big Ev, it's a little difficult to answer this question. But we'll do it because we have 20 minutes left in the show. We have about 18 minutes left in the show. We'll get out of here a couple minutes before the top of the hour so that everybody can watch Surviving Barstool. Yeah. 24 of the biggest personalities on the internet. Yeah. 24 people who suck Dave Portnoy's fucking cock. All right. Here we go. Let's go with what happened?
That was aggressive.
Oh, okay. Sorry. No. I think it's going to be a good show. I think you guys should watch it. 3/9/25. Who's down the most? Who's down the worst? Big Av, if I asked you this Saturday, it would have been you. If I asked you this Sunday, it would have been you. By Tuesday, you just learned home playoff game. It has to be wearing off a little. When I say who's down the worst, who is it?
It's a tough question right now. I guess it probably would be. I think it's probably South Carolina fans right now. I think they just realized they're cooked. I think they had not come to the realization that they were cooked, even though
they should have realized that weeks ago.
They should have. I agree with you. Listen, they just had an unfortunate scenario where they just lost to the wrong teams. Like if their losses were to Texas or Tennessee or Georgia or a combo of those teams, they'd be in a great spot. I think they would have the spot because they have the momentum and they have some pretty good wins. But now they just learned their fate. They have 0.0% chance to get the playoff. I think they got hosed in the LSU game, but it is what it is. That's football.
To add what Ev just said, so again, like I love having friends that don't work in the media and like actually just are like big time college football fans for stuff like this because you get a real pulse. One of my guy friends who graduated from South Carolina, big South Carolina fan, texted me at 7:27. What a joke! Move up 1 spot for beating number 12 on the road, and Bama jumps 2 spots after beating a 5-win Auburn team right after getting skull fucked by a god awful Oklahoma. That's immediately, which again, like I don't necessarily disagree, but like that's the immediate thought is like that they really believed that beating Clemson, which I do think it's a much better win, obviously, but they had that much hope. Like, and I mean, I know you're going to get to me, but can I just go now since I'm already talking?
Seems like you already are.
I'm already. Ole Miss fans are right there too, Ev, because we've been watching, like I have like Ole Miss fans. Again, my friends that are not a part of the media, that are not a part of the football team, like the lobbying they've been doing. Lane Kiffin has tweeted and put on his Instagram story 100 times the last few days, lobbying for being over Alabama, being over South Carolina. And that's not just because he's doing it. That's because Ole Miss fans really do it, really, really believes that they could jump that spot. Now, I 1,000% agree that Kentucky is the worst loss. The thing is that like they should have realized real quickly after losing to Florida when they had everything in front of them that it was over. And they did not. For whatever reason, that was not enough. So South Carolina fans probably first because the way they finished the season, but Ole Miss fans are down tremendously bad too. And their head coach is also lobbying for something that he was just going to be let down by.
Listen, no team in the country choked more than Ole Miss, and that's just a fact. They have you look at Georgia, you look at Texas, Ohio State, Oregon. I truly believe this Ole Miss roster is right there with any of them. They have probably the best defensive line out of any of that group. Their defensive line is nasty and massive and completely bought through the transfer portal, which was smart. Their roster is – receivers are great. They got one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the country. They were built to win a national title. And they showed that when they beat the shit out of South Carolina and they beat the shit out of Georgia. And all you got to do is beat the second worst team in the SEC at home in Kentucky. All you got to do is beat LSU team that you're much better than on the road. All you got to do is go to Florida and beat a 5-5 team at the time. And they choked every single time. There is no team that deserves their fate more than Ole Miss does right now. They can say, "Oh, we should have done this. We should have done that." No, you should have beat Kentucky. You should have beat. They went 1-7 in the SEC, 1-7, and that includes beating you. It's unbelievable the choke job that happened in Oxford this year. I didn't want them to go to the playoff, but I recognize that's a team that should have gone to the playoff with that roster.
And also, like, the choke job against Kentucky, fine. But then to get the, because of the 12-team playoff, to get, like, the opportunity again.
Third chance.
Right. Like, to have, after beating Georgia, like, that's why the lobbying didn't make near as much sense. Because it wasn't like those 3 losses were what South Carolina was arguing was, like, closer earlier in the year, whatever. Like, you can't have the playoff in front of you, lose to Florida after having a bye week after beating Georgia, and expect to get in. There's definitely an argument. There's no doubt. But Ole Miss fans legitimately had hope going into tonight that they would be the top of those 3 SEC teams.
Blubman, who's down the worst?
Yeah, quick twofer. One's Miami. I think it's a minor miracle in the world today that team is still somehow ranked number 12 is what it is. I haven't seen a Miami fan speak this last month. Wonder why. That pretty average team flamed out quickly. 2 is going to be Joey McGuire, head coach at Texas Tech. Completely fumbled 5-star receiver Micah Hudson in a season where we saw how many great, superb, true freshman receivers burst onto the scene. Micah Hudson had 8 catches. Micah Hudson wanted to play. Micah Hudson didn't get playing time. Lost them to the portal. Also just lost Zach Kitley, his OC, to the head coach at FAU. Fumbled that. Texas Tech's going to be in for a very interesting season next year.
If you're at Texas Tech and you get a 5-star wide receiver, he needs to be throwing the ball 15 times a game. You need to make him the focal point of your offense because with the transfer portal the way it is, you've got to bring him in, treat him right, and make him the star of your team. And that sucks because you want a guy to earn it, but
he's a crazy talent. It's mind-boggling.
We haven't mentioned this too. Neil Brown fired. He's probably down pretty bad. I don't know what his buyout is, so maybe he's not down so bad. But Neil Brown out of West Virginia.
I feel like he's something good.
They're going to interview Kotelnicki at Penn State, but then they're also talking, and West Virginia fans are talking themselves into Jimbo Fisher, into running Rich Rod back. Like they are running the gamut of jobs or of potential coaches. So West Virginia, North Carolina, Purdue, as far as Power 5 jobs, am I missing one? I am, right?
I don't think so.
So we got 3 Power 5 jobs. That's a very it's a slow carousel if that's what we got.
I do think that the 12-team playoff probably pushes it a little bit, but I guess not because they're not going to fire any of those teams. I know this is not probably the night to talk about this, but the fact that I guess Ryan Day's on there. I saw Ev's face. The fact that the portal is open and Michigan is going out in the portal right now and already making moves when a lot of the teams can't already that shit's got to be fixed.
The schedule's all fucked up. Signing day's tomorrow. The schedule's all fucked up.
The portal should not open until after the national championship. This is crazy, especially now that there's so many more teams in that mix. The fact that Michigan, who just obviously kicked the, sorry, Ev, got their win. They know that their season is done and they can go out now and make all these moves while Ohio State has, I don't know. I think that's bullshit.
Yeah. Georgia lost a defensive back transfer today, right? Georgia's playing for the SEC
Julian
championship.
Humphrey.
Yeah.
Got the Ryan Williams play.
What's the Kayce, more business?
We have two more businesses. DraftKings.
Doing back
DraftKings.
to back, by the way. Doing back to back.
Okay, I'm going to go back to back. So DraftKings, we know, obviously, the official betting partner of Barstool Sports. We're offering newbies a great deal right now if you bet just $5. So you go on, you use code RUFF, deposit. You can just deposit $5, bet $5. If that bet wins, it does not matter what the odds are. It could be the craziest, minus 2,000, minus 3,000 odds ever. If it wins, you get $150 immediately in bonus bets that you can use immediately. So again, promo code RUFF. Bet just $5, get $150 in bonus bets if that bet wins. And Brandon, you know what you should do? While you have the DraftKings Sportsbook app in your hand, you're watching some NBA, you're watching some college basketball, you're watching some college football, some NFL, you're probably hungry. And you know what you're thinking? I don't want to sit and make a meal. I don't want to go to the grocery store. I don't want to have to think about it. I don't want to have to order and wait an hour. Factor. That's where Factor comes in. Factor meals, they've been our friends for a long time. It's just 2 minutes. They're never frozen. So it's not like a frozen meal that you throw in and you can grab out in a couple months. Like, it is fresh, delivered to your door, whether you're in a home, building, condo, whatever. And it comes and you get to pick your menu every single week. So if you want keto, if you want no carbs, if you want the heartiest meal you can get, tons of protein, go to factormeals.com/50roughness and use 50 roughness as the code to get 50% off your first box plus free shipping. They're ready in just 2 minutes. They're healthy. They're delicious. They've got breakfast, dinner, lunch, appetizers, desserts. They've got it all. Factormeals.com/50 roughness and use code 50 roughness to get 50% off your first box plus free shipping. Make it easy on yourself, folks. Eat Factor.
Also,
all right, we got
UCF 4.
That's right. Yeah.
That's right. Chris Malzahn is an offensive coordinator now.
Which, if I'm a Florida State fan, I'm like, what the? That's your answer? Okay. So Big F
name linked to them in the portal.
Who you talking about?
I'll tell you over.
Okay. All right. Because the last thing we want to do is say it on this show.
Can't. That's tampering.
It's not tampering if you. Okay. All right. Whatever. Big F, who's up the highest right now?
I think it's got to be Penn State, actually, I'm going to say, because Penn State's in a great spot where they didn't beat anyone this year. Their best win is going to be Illinois, who is like kind of another, like they're kind of in that Mizzou boat where they're getting propped up for the Big Ten. I think they're a decent team, but regardless, they lost their only big game to Ohio State, and they still somehow are sitting here in the, I guess they're in the 3 hole now, and they because we shit our pants, they're in the Big Ten championship game, and they're sitting pretty. They're either going to win that game, they're going to be the number 1 seed and be in a good spot, or they're going to lose that game, be the 5 or 6, probably absolute worst, and still be in a great spot. So Penn State really got to just coast along the season and do what they always do, and they're sitting pretty as hell.
They basically got a free roll to play for a conference championship.
That's 100% what happened.
They're not hurt if they lose, and they just got a free shot at it.
You think that if they win, they would go all the way up to number 1?
Or 2. I think two at worst.
Yeah, I guess it depends on if Texas wins.
If Texas wins, they would probably be 1, but 1 and 2 at. They're
going
to be 1. They're either going to be 1 or 2 or 5 or 6.
Yeah, if Penn State and Georgia win, Penn State's number 1.
Probably, yeah. I definitely, yes, I would agree.
That's crazy.
Agree. Who's up the highest, Kayce?
I'm going to go with kind of Ebb's thinking, but it's Texas. I mean, obviously Texas has that loss to Georgia, and they got dominated by Georgia, but they're favored right now. I don't know what the line is as we speak right now, but they opened up as a favorite in Atlanta against Georgia. And the way that, Quinn Ewers obviously had his mistakes and he tried to give that game away, but the way that defense played, and we've seen Georgia, again, I keep going back to the 8 overtimes against Georgia Tech. They had no business being in that game. They play down to competition a lot. I think Texas fans right now coming off of a win, the thing I see, and again, this is my little vacuum in my world that I see is like, oh, haha, A&M can't even make it in the SEC championship in 13 years. We did it in year 1. Like, that is how they're feeling right now. They didn't have to play a true, disgustingly hard SEC West schedule like they would have if they were in the conference last year. However, they go in year 1 in the SEC, beat their rival at home to go into the SEC championship, and they're favored to get, revenge on Georgia. If you're a Texas fan right now, you should be up tremendous. And also you have a guy named Arch Manning who's a fucking badass behind Quinn Ewers. So that sucks for me, but it's the facts.
Blutman, who's up the highest right now?
One of them is going to be Lenora Sellers-Stocks. That man forced 18 missed tackles against Clemson. Dude is one of the best running quarterbacks that we're going to see in a minute. A lot of work needs to be done in throwing, but love watching him play. Tremendous player. 2 is going to be. Dang it! I did the thing again where I forgot. So going on the fly. I'm so sorry. The Mountain West Championship game winner. Getting into the playoff. Friday night's going to be so much fun. I can't wait. If the people want a space, they'll get a space. Game of the year, part 2. Can't wait.
I guess I'll just thank you guys for doing this, but I'll just take the obvious answer.
Georgia Tech.
How's it not Alabama?
There's the other name in my head.
Right,
this was obvious. They
suffered. They suffered through a 3. Finally, we get to see them lose 3 games in a year, and then the cards just break just right for them. They're just gonna slide right back into this playoff. They're just gonna dance right in there, despite the fact they just had an all-time bed shitting against Oklahoma, despite the fact they lost to Vanderbilt, despite the fact they lost 3 games for the first time in 1,000 years. Here they are. They're just right there again, and it's got to be Alabama because they're going to be in the playoff, and we found that out tonight. There's a very narrow window that knocks them out of the playoff, and that's Clemson winning and SMU keeping that spot. I think committee is in love with Alabama so much it's not going to matter. But, yeah, it's got to be Alabama. They just found out that despite their flaws, despite all the setbacks, despite having the worst season they've had in decades, they're still Alabama. They're still fine.
Do you find it fascinating though? Like, I know, again, we talked about like the lobbying that like you didn't really see like the national media lobbying for Alabama or like anybody from Alabama lobbying. Right. But that's what I'm like, to me, that's fascinating. It's like, they're so confident in their brand, even without Nick Saban as their head coach, they don't have to do it.
I don't think they're confident in their brand. I just think if you objectively look at the 3 resumes of South Carolina, Ole Miss, and Alabama, it's clearly Alabama. And I don't think they had to fight for it as much. South Carolina knew they had to fight. Lane Kiffin knew he had to fight. I don't think Alabama felt like they had to fight as much as if it came down to these 3 teams. Alabama felt like it was pretty cut and dry, and I think it was.
I don't think it was as cut and dry as you do now. Obviously, like there's arguments. I do think that there is an element of this brand. Like I've seen the flipped argument where it's like if Alabama was doing what South Carolina is doing, and South Carolina did what Alabama is doing because of the brand. Like, and I do agree with I do think that. But it is fascinating because Nick Saban's not there anymore, but it's because it's Alabama. There is an element of that.
Maybe a little bit, but again, resume for resume, theirs is just better. They got the win over South Carolina. That gives them. They got the win over Georgia. They killed LSU on the road. This is an LSU team to beat South Carolina. Their secondary wins are pretty good. Like they killed Missouri, who is 9-3, number 19 in the country, and Ole Miss had 2 really good wins at the top of their resume, but after that didn't really have much. Alabama goes like 4 and 5 deep with good, solid wins. They had 2 bad losses. They had 1 decent loss. So I just think their resume is way better.
I wouldn't say way better, but we don't have to get into the nitty gritty. Also, the countdown did just start for Surviving Barstool. So anything else before we have to make sure, because I'm not catching smoke for being live while Surviving Barstool's on.
All right. Yeah, we can end it right there. Thanks for watching. We'll be back on Thursday to preview championship weekend. And Blutman, did you have something to add? You have 10 seconds if you do.
Third winner, Coach Brent Key. Got a bright future at Georgia Tech, even though they lost Aaron Philo, the truth at quarterback.
Agreed. All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll be back, and we appreciate it.